A portion of this lesson is just basically learning a little bit about angles. Of course, I start off here by just simply telling you how an angle is formed. It's just simply two rays that share the same endpoint. The endpoint that the two rays share is referred to as the vertex. So, of course, the two lines that I have here, of course, represent the two rays. They share this endpoint, therefore that's called your vertex. And then the rays are called the sides of your angle. Now, in naming an angle, a couple different things that you can do. Of course, you're used to using 3 letters a lot of the time to name an angle. So I've named my vertex B, and then I've picked a point on each side. So this would be point A, this is point C. So I've said that you could name this angle that we have here at the vertex as angle ABC or angle CBA. The key to that is you have to name the letter that's at the vertex. That has to be your middle letter. As I have here, I've got B's in both of those spots because that's the letter that I have here at the vertex. Now, if all you have in your figure is just this one angle, like it's not mixed in with other rays and you have multiple angles, then you can just refer to it as just that one particular letter, as I have here with angle B. Now, you also have the Greek letter called theta that's very commonly used to name an angle, especially in trig. So that's something that you will definitely see a lot of during this course. So you could just refer to this as angle theta. So a lot of what I've just explained is what I have here written in this bottom paragraph. Okay. Now, angles can be formed by rotating different directions, and that's one thing that we're going to look at here based on which way you rotate as to what your angle is. So as it says, the direction of the rotation that forms an angle determines its initial and terminal sides. If you just think about what the words initial and terminal mean, it kind of makes sense. Initial is kind of like the start. Terminal is thought of as being the end. So like in this case, I say that my angle is formed by going from this ray to this ray. So I put an arrow on it this time to indicate which way I rotated. So this is where my angle started. That's why I have this labeled as initial. This is where my angle ended. Therefore, I have this labeled as terminal. Okay, then here, just the reverse of what I just explained. This time my rotation arrow coming this way means I started here. This is the initial, and I stopped here, so that's going to be my terminal. Okay, so that's what it means by initial side and terminal side. Now, I also have these angles labeled as positive or negative, and that's what you see explained here in this bottom paragraph. It says when the rotation from the initial side to the terminal side takes place in a counterclockwise direction, of course that means opposite from your clock, the angle that's formed is a positive angle. So if you follow the rotation arrow of this first one, that's counterclockwise. That's the opposite direction that you go on your clock. That's always going to be a positive angle. Whereas if you rotate clockwise from your initial to terminal side, then that's going to always give you a negative angle. So I know a lot of the times negative can be a little misdeceiving or to you, but when it comes to your angles being positive or negative, it's simply just describing a direction, okay? I mean, when you measure something, it's going to have a measurement. It's going to be 45 degrees. It's going to be 75 degrees. But it's just the direction that it goes that causes you to have to label it as being a negative angle versus a positive angle. Last couple of things. First of all, I mentioned, I said there's 2 ways to measure an angle, and that's in degrees and radians. Degrees is what you've always worked with, and that's what we'll work with here at the beginning, but we will get into what's called radian measure, but we'll deal with that later. The other thing, last thing there, is if your angle is formed by rotating a ray through one complete revolution. So if you go all the way around and your initial side comes back around to your terminal side, you've gone 360 degrees. So one complete revolution's 360 degrees. Okay, next is something that you should be familiar with as far as classifying some angles. Angles that measure exactly 90 degrees are right angles. Angles that measure exactly 180 degrees are called straight angles. If your angle measures between 0 and 90, then that would be an acute angle. And angles that measure between 90 and 180 are called obtuse angles. So you will be asked to classify angles, based on that as you go through your homework. Okay, next is the complementary and supplementary, again, which is something that you are accustomed to, but just to refresh your memory. If you have two angles and they're summed, so that means if you add your two angles together and you get exactly 90 degrees, then those are called complementary angles. So I've got a couple of examples there. So this would be a pair of complementary angles. Of course, you add 30 and 60, you get 90. Of course, now that we're talking about our angles possibly being negative, you could also have the example that you have 120 degrees and negative 30 degrees. So if you add those two values together, you would also get 90 degrees. Alright, next is the supplementary angles. So if two angles have a sum of 180 degrees, then they are called supplementary angles. So add two angles, you get exactly 180, then they're supplementary. So that would be an example of two angles that are supplementary. Okay, another slide here, just some notes. Now this is going to a triangle. And basically just how do you typically go about labeling a triangle, because we'll work a lot with triangles. It says in a triangle the angles are denoted with uppercase letters. And that's just the most common, so you can see at each of those corners I have the capital A, B, and C, because that would represent those angles. The length of the sides are typically done with lowercase letters, so you can see my lowercase A, B, and C. It is also standard to label the sides and angles so that side A is opposite angle A, side B is opposite angle B, and side C is opposite angle C. So like me calling this angle B, what I mean by opposite is you go through the triangle to the other side and see that's the same letter. And then same thing here, from side A, go through the triangle and you've got angle A, and then the C's are opposite each other. That's something very important for you to remember, because that will mess you up later on with drawing some things if you're not aware of that. Okay, just another reminder here that a triangle, if you add your three angles up, the sum of the angles is always 180 degrees. And another piece of information about triangles, if you take the side that's opposite the largest angle, that has to be the longest side. So largest angle, longest side have to be opposite from each other. The angle that's of the medium sized, that would have to be opposite the medium length side. And then, or medium sized angle would have to be opposite the medium side length. And then the side that's opposite your smallest angle will always have to be opposite the shortest side. So you always have that proportion there. That's helpful with some other things later on.